Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to go ahead and get started here in Adobe Photoshop. And you can really follow along if you have the later versions of CS, but I'm working here in Photoshop CC 2014. And of course, if you're watching this down the road when then perhaps there's a 2015, 2016 version, you still should be able to follow along without any problems. Okay, so what we want to do first is open up a template from the resources, and you can download that from the site. And once you have that opened up and extracted from the zip file, what we'll do is real quickly go to File Open, and we're going to open iFace Template. Okay, so you may see something similar to this. We can see we're only at 25% because this is a very large or a very tall document. It's something I start out with whenever I'm designing a mock-up for a website. In case it needs to be like a long scrolling website, it has the length there already for me. And then we can also see all these columns, and this is for specifically, usually I don't use these guys, I just hit Control H to get rid of those. But if I take and show this layer right here where it says columns, and of course if you don't have any of these tabs I'm using, just go to Window, and for instance if you don't see layers, just go to Layers, and that should show up over here. And if we turn on and off the columns here, we can see the same sort of setup, and this is specifically for using a grid system, and that's important when we get to the HTML and CSS portion. And so we're going to be using a front-end framework called Foundation. It's very popular, it's responsive, and if none of this means anything to you, don't worry, you'll understand as we start designing. Okay, so the first thing, we want to go ahead and get a logo up here. All right, so once again, we're going to go to File, Open. I've created a logo. And we'll open this right here. It's logo.png. It's hard to see because it's a transparent background, but if you hit Control A and Control C to copy, and of course if you're on Mac, it'll be Command A, Command C. And we'll go ahead and hit, just select the layer 1 right here and hit Control V to paste. Now once again, it's real small because we're only at 25%. So what we want to do is take the Move tool and just move this up right around here. We'll turn on the columns. Wow, I got that pretty accurate. Hit Control 1 to get to 100%, and then just scroll up with your mouse scroll wheel or just drag this up here. Wow, I got that like exact perfect. That's insane. Anyhow, so what is Bitforce? Of course, this is a completely fictional company, and it's just an idea that I came up with and a name that I came up with and a lettermark logo here. As you can see, the B and the F kind of tied together. And this is basically a fictional company about Bitcoin wallets. All right, so if you don't know what Bitcoin is, it's a kind of a popular digital currency. And so this is what our whole website and this whole course is going to be based around, this fictional project of promoting a digital Bitcoin physical wallet, essentially. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just move this up just roughly, wait 1 second, make sure we're selected on layer 2. Yeah, right around there is pretty good. And then I'm going to double click on top of layer 2 just to name it to logo. And there we go. Okay, so next thing, we want to go ahead and put in a navigation, a horizontal navigation right here. So what we'll do is choose the type tool. Now I'm using a font family called Source Sans Pro. I like the light version. And this is something that you can find if you go to Google and you type Source Sans Pro, or if you just go to google.com/fonts, you'll find that there as well. And really, what I will do is include in the resource text file is link to this so that you can download it on your computer and use it in Photoshop. All right, so what we'll do is bring up the columns here just for reference, and really, where we put this in relation doesn't really matter. I just want to make sure it ends right around here. So we'll just left click, type in Overview. Right now it's black, so I'm just going to switch off to another tool, come back to it, and then change it to white right there. And that font size is definitely a little bit too big, so I'm going to try maybe around 18. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to select on it again and make sure this is left justified, and just hit a few spaces. It doesn't really matter how many. We're going to type in join up. Actually, instead of join up, that's what I originally had. We'll type in order now. So we'll go ahead and copy all the way from right here to here. Control C, then Control V, and Control V one more time to paste twice. And that way we have even spacing between each of these to kind of emulate the even spacing you would have in HTML and CSS in the margin between them. So we'll type in FAQ, FAQ, for frequently asked questions, and then contact. All right, so we'll go ahead and move this over, holding Shift, and ideally you want it to be kind of on the same baseline as the logo type. And then hold Shift and just drag it over. And holding Shift, of course, will keep it on that horizontal path. All right, so let's go ahead, and this is essentially what you should have at this point. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a container here that will go underneath both the logo and the type navigation layer right here. Now, another thing to note is, of course, our design is going to be responsive in that, it's going to work on desktop, tablets, and smartphones, essentially. But just for this mock-up, I always design the mock-up for just a desktop version or a large screen variation, while keeping in mind how it's going to work at these smaller resolutions. So this, for instance, this is going to change into a hamburger icon menu, the kind of the three little lines. And then we'll just kind of think about those things as we're designing this mock-up and how things will kind of interact with each other. All right, so now we'll go ahead and create that container. So we're just going to left click and hold. So we have the rectangle tool right here. We're going to left click and drag roughly maybe right around this size. Okay. Now, depending on what your colors are, it may have chose a different color, but that doesn't really matter. What we want to do now is use a custom, or not a custom rather, something we're going to open up the resource URLs text file from the resource project files that you downloaded. And we see top BG or background pattern right there. I'm going to copy that URL and I'm going to paste that in to a browser window. And that is right here. So it's called Dark Sharp Edges. This is the background that we want to use right for the container that we just created. All you have to do is click download, and it's going to download this. You can see I already downloaded it once. And that'll bring up whichever editor you have. I use WinRAR for unzipping. And then we'll just double click on this. Right now I have Photoshop set to open these type of files. Or you can just drag it to your desktop and go to File, Open in Photoshop. So I double click this. You can see it's a pretty large background pattern. And you can go to Edit, Define Pattern, and then just hit OK. Now, if we double click on the right side of Rectangle 1, which is this rectangle right here, it'll bring up the layer styles. And layer styles allow you to do a lot of different things. We want to choose Pattern Overlay. And it may show something different for you. Some of these are custom. If you go to the very bottom, you'll see the one that we just downloaded and hit OK. And that, my friends, is it. Okay, so now that we're at this, where we've come this far, make sure you save your Photoshop document, save it something new if you wish, or just overwrite the template here. And in the next lesson, we're going to focus on creating a sort of stylized wallet right here using some photo manipulation. All right, I'll see you then.